little bit about the rehearsal you just did.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing with, all black musicians. Did that feel any different, or was that an unusual experience? Because it's obviously, it's uncommon, I suppose.
It can be uncommon, but at the end of the day, it's all about music. So it was no different than any other rehearsal. I mean, initially when I walked in the room, I'm like, oh yes, everyone's all black. But then once the music is made, you don't hear that. You don't hear, I hear, Ty Murray as a black violinist, so this is going to be different. It's not like that. She's playing the violin, and it's a beautiful music making, and so you just try to put your part in as best as you can with what's going on. So you don't hear the ethnicity of the people playing. You might see that, but at the end of the day, it's just like another person you're playing with. So I don't find it so different. I think what is different is the way we interact at the end of rehearsals or between rehearsals or during rehearsals. There's more of, for me, and I know this is common in the US too, is that there's more kind of this kinship of sharing, like kind of shared history, shared past, shared experiences, the shared kind of, cultural backgrounds, the cultural language, which I find really interesting because not all of us are American, of course. Most of them, everyone is pretty much European. So you have people from Berlin and Austria and of course the UK, and so their cultures are still very much present and being very much represented there. So it's really fun to see how these different, even though skin tones are similar, cultural backgrounds are still very diverse, and there's still a lot of different ways of going about approaching music, phrases, discussing how we're going to do this. So I think it's still very exciting stuff happening in spite of the racial front page.
Cool. Can I just get that mic?
Yeah.
I'll just do it a bit higher. Can you just say a little bit about what you think about the whole project, Chineke, and how Chichi approached you?
I think first of all the project is so worthwhile. I think it's definitely something that is long overdue in the world, and I hope it serves for the generations to come and for the current generations and people in the business to see that these auditions aren't the end all be all to definition of great music making. The orchestras you see aren't necessarily as representative or indicative of the vast array of well-trained, highly skilled musicians that are out there in the world. I think it's important to remember that African Americans, black people, BME, are capable of doing so much more than whatever the status quo suggests. So I think it's really worthwhile. I think it's a great opportunity and venue for all of us to kind of get together, to network, to meet, and to just kind of feel some sort of sense of camaraderie and kinship and sharing our own battle stories or whatever it may be, or just sitting back and cutting up a little bit and having fun with like-minded people. I think that's really great. As far as how Chichi approached me, I got a Facebook message. And so I was like, oh yeah, sure, that'd be a lot of fun. I mean, I think this is something that's always been near and dear to my heart because I find just particularly what's going on in the world with regards to race, the Black Lives Matter movement, all those sorts of things. I think it's very, very, it's very precedent. It's very, real right now. It's something that needed to happen, and needs to continue happening so that our faces can be represented in orchestras. I don't think it makes any sense that in cities where 90% of that population is African American, Latino, BME, that their orchestra that's supposed to represent the city can't halfway meet that population. I think that's very difficult. I think it's suggestive of other issues within our culture that music can address and should address. I don't think we should kind of sit back and just be, paint on the wall or, a beautiful masterpiece just hanging around. We're supposed to make commentary and we're supposed to get involved. We're kind of get our hands dirty and inspire change, encourage change through music, through this beautiful language of music that really knows no race. I mean, we're doing Samuel Coleridge Taylor, and it's so interesting and so fascinating to hear his music because it's so much of his writing is very Brahmsian, but it's not. And so you're like, this is something that's really beautiful and really prolific, and yet you don't hear about this composer that much. And so I think realizing that there's contributions being made every day by people that you might not think are worthy of or good enough to be or whatever idea you might have about what classical music means or should mean or should look like, those things don't matter at the end of the day because I think it's amazing work that's being done, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. I'm very excited, and I look forward to more opportunities like this. So yeah.
Brilliant. That's really good.
Yay.